All right, what's going on, everyone? Welcome into the Chiefs Zone podcast. My name is Farzin Vasugi, and thank you all for joining me on this Tuesday edition of the podcast. It is the eve of New Year's Eve, the last podcast of 2025. Hard to believe it's the last 2 days of 2025, but we are here nonetheless, and it is, unfortunately for the Chiefs, the final game breakdown we're going to be doing of the season. Still hard to believe, but we are here, and that is the situation with the Kansas City Chiefs. So we'll get right into it. A lot of things to get into here on tonight's podcast, talking about Travis Kelce, whether or not this will be his final game with the Kansas City Chiefs. And if this is his final game, there's a possibility of him being sent off in somewhat of a positive manner. First of all, I do think the Chiefs will win this game. I'll get into why later on in the podcast tonight. But also, he's got a chance to surpass one milestone and also a key record to move up ahead of someone. Not necessarily a record-breaking move, but something that can happen to move him up in the tight end charts, and it would be quite the accomplishment. Let me just give you the short version of it. He needs 57 yards. If Travis Kelce can get 57 yards, he will have two big accomplishments this Sunday to add to his NFL career. Already a great career for Travis Kelce, but if this is going to be his final game, it'd be pretty cool to give him at least 57 receiving yards. So we'll touch on what those two stats are that will allow him to move up in the world of the NFL books with the 57 yards. Get into that. Also, talk about some NFL news going on today. And we didn't discuss this on the podcast last week, but this became a story today. Should the NFL play games on Christmas? And I think it's kind of interesting how the NFL goes about scheduling games on Christmas to begin with. So we'll get into all of that on this episode of the Chiefs Zone podcast. Plus, break down the game between the Chiefs and the Raiders, the final game breakdown of the Chiefs Zone podcast for both this calendar year and this season. This podcast is brought to you by SeatGeek. If you guys want to attend the Chiefs-Raiders game this Sunday in Vegas, like I will, thanks to my friends over at SeatGeek, you guys want to attend the NFL playoffs. Obviously, the Chiefs are not going to be there, but you'll have an opportunity to attend 6 wildcard games the following week and several other games following that. We've got the college football playoffs going on right now. We also have the NBA, the NHL, college basketball, Major League Baseball going to be starting up very soon. And you guys want to catch any of the action? I've got the place for you to go. SeatGeek, that's where I get all of my tickets from. And if you're a new SeatGeek customer, you can use my promo code FARZIN. You'll save $20 off your first order from SeatGeek. Go to SeatGeek.com, pick your tickets at checkout, use my promo code FARZIN if you're a new SeatGeek customer, and you will save $20 off your first order from SeatGeek. Yeah, it is hard to believe. The final game of the season for Kansas City. Look, I think this will be more appropriate to discuss next week. So next Tuesday, Mark Van Sickle, who's with KCMO Talk Radio and does all kinds of Chiefs and sports content, Big 12, all of that good stuff. He's going to be on the podcast. And Zach Segenga. Zach's been on this podcast many times, co-hosted with me during the 2019 season. We're going to be talking about a lot that went wrong this season. I think the Cliff Notes version of it for right now, where do you pinpoint it? And you can't do it on one specific thing because they started 0-2 and you kind of wondered, man, what's going on right now? And then the Chiefs went on to win 5 of 6 games. And the week of Halloween, I remember Fox Sports was, trying to go with the theme of Halloween. Who is the scariest team in football? And Julian Edelman, who was not giving up on the Chiefs until they really got eliminated from playoff contention with 3 weeks to spare in the season. Julian Edelman was really high on this team, saying they are the scariest team in football. And I had my reservations in saying whether or not this team would be back because they were going up against some easier opponents middle of the season. And listen, you can only play who's on your schedule. I know the Chiefs got knocked on that last year, barely beating bad football teams. You're kind of seeing that same thing right now with New England. People are making a big deal about how they've only beat one team with a winning record, and I believe that one team is Buffalo. And Denver is also getting a lot of that as well, where they're squeezing by these one-score games against bad teams. And I'm like, oh, that looks a lot like the Kansas City narrative from last year. But I digress. With the Chiefs, though, I mean, they were winning a lot of those one-score games last year. This year, it's the complete opposite, where it's been, I think the only one-score game they won was that Indianapolis game that went into overtime, a game they probably had no business winning with the way they had to surge from behind late in the third quarter and into the fourth quarter and overtime. But I feel like this Chiefs team right now, there's a lot to look at right now. And I know a lot of mock draft, and I know a lot of Chiefs fans, they want Jordan Love as their running back. They want the Chiefs to draft Jordan Love. And look, I'm not opposed to Jordan Love coming to Kansas City. But my biggest thing is, are you going to have the offensive line to protect him? Look at Ashton Jeanty. Ashton Jeanty, I think, is going to have a great NFL career, but he's got to have an offensive line that's going to block for him. I remember when the Raiders drafted him, and not just in Kansas City, I listened to a lot of national sports talk radio. And listen, I love talk radio, nationally more so. It's sad that the Infinity Sports Network is gone. I know I've kind of gone over that before. But I just heard nationally people talking about how, yeah, Ashton Jeanty is great and talented, but he's not going to do much with that, behind that bad offensive line. And unfortunately, that ended up being the case. Jeanty wasn't terrible this season. He's got 888 yards. It's not bad, but he's averaging less than 4 yards a carry. And I think with a guy as talented as Jeanty, who's only had 3 big runs, 5 touchdowns on the season, and listen, like when you think of the Raiders, who do you think of in terms of great players? Brock Bowers, obviously on the offensive side of the football. A couple of wide receivers they've done away with. On the defensive side, the only player, and I had to, do my research and look things up, but before, and it's funny because I pay attention to a lot of Raiders games because they're in the AFC West. I seriously could not tell you, be honest with me in the chat. Can any of you guys name a defensive player on the Raiders? Like if you were forced to give up $1,000 and the only way you would get that $1,000 back is you had to name 3 defensive players on the Raiders, not named Max Crosby. Could anyone do that? I could not. And listen, a big part of it is right now, yeah, they're kind of doing what the Chiefs are doing, putting a lot of guys on IR. But man, I'm just looking at, Brock Bowers is on IR. Their leading interceptor, Blue Kelly's on IR. Crosby's on IR. And I know the Crosby thing's a little weird because he posted footage of himself playing basketball recently. Don't know what that's all about, but I seriously could not tell you any defensive player on that Raiders. Here, I'll give you the Raiders' entire starting defensive line going into this game, and these are projected starters, mind you. You have Tyree Wilson and Malcolm Kuntz as your edge guys. Jonah Laulu and Adam Butler. Butler's dealing with an injury, so that's kind of a maybe right now. Your linebackers, Jamal Adams, Devin White, and Landon Roberts. And then your defensive backs, Darian Porter, the third-round rookie, Eric Stokes, and then safety Isaiah Polamau and Lonnie Johnson Jr. Other guys that get a lot of playing time, slot cornerback, nickel cornerback, Greedy Vance, undrafted free agent they got this year. I seriously could not tell you any of those players. I could not tell you a damn thing about any of those guys. Oh, by far, Max Crosby's their best defensive player. But behind him, there's I can't tell you a damn thing about this team. And listen, it's been a long, long time. For you long-time Chiefs owners, we have not done a podcast like this where we are talking about 2 absolutely meaningless teams playing in the final week of the regular season. And I'm excluding, when the Chiefs have they're locked into a certain seed in the AFC playoffs. I'm not counting that. Because you still see some starters get play in those games based on availability and whatnot. But man, I think I would have to go back to the 2012 season. I think that's the last time where I did a podcast breaking down a game where the last two, the two teams, the Chiefs and whoever they were playing with, I think Denver that year, and Denver was a playoff team. So I would have to go even further back. It's been a while since we've last seen the Chiefs. Though, honestly, I think the very first year I did this podcast was in 2007. I remember at the time they did announce the schedule for week 17 because week 17 was the final week that year. And they did pick the Chiefs and the Jets to play Sunday Night Football to wrap up the season. They must have really thought the Chiefs were going to be good that year, and the Jets. But that ended up not being the case. I remember Shannon Sharp was on the NFL Today on CBS at the time, and he said, I'm calling this game the U-Haul game because there are a lot of players who are playing their last games with the Chiefs and the Jets in that one. Yeah, it is basically a preseason game. Kaim, I hope I'm saying your name correctly. It'd be a miracle if we win against the Raiders. I disagree, and I'll get into why. I think the Chiefs will win this game. It's not going to be anything impressive, but the Raiders are really, really, really bad. I mean, listen, I know the Chiefs have been extremely disappointing this season, but the Raiders are horrendous. I think even with Chris Oladokun, I think the Chiefs can do some things in this game, and I'll explain why later on in this podcast tonight. But yeah, it's been a while since we've last done a podcast where the last two teams in the last game of the season, the Chiefs and whoever they play, have basically nothing to play for other than draft positioning, which I hate to break it to you guys. The Chiefs will possibly play themselves out of the number 9 spot. Let me look up the standings right now because the Chiefs at the moment are picking number 9. Let me just count real quick. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Yeah. So it goes Raiders, Giants, Cardinals, Jets, Titans, Commanders, Browns, and then the 3 teams that are 6 and 10. The Saints, the Chiefs, and the Bengals. The Chiefs are in the middle of those 3 6 and 10 teams. They're picking 9th. The Bengals are picking 10th. The Saints obviously just one ahead of the Chiefs. The Falcons are 11th. They can fall to 4th place in the division. Just kind of depends on what happens, though. So right now, the Chiefs are number 9. They can fall out of the top 10 in the draft. They can improve, and I use that term loosely, improve their standing with the draft with a loss. There are no 5-win teams at the moment, so I don't think they can improve it by that much. They'll be anywhere between 8 to 12 on the first round of the draft. So we'll see if that's going to be good enough to get Jeremiah Love or if they'll need to move up. We'll have to see. All right. I mentioned Travis Kelce. Travis Kelce, I think the only positive thing that you can really look forward to is Travis Kelce moving up in the NFL record books. He needs 10 yards, just 10 yards in this one, to become the 3rd tight end in NFL history to surpass 13,000 receiving yards in his career. The only 2 tight ends who've done it, Tony Gonzalez, who's got 15,000, I think 127 yards to be exact. And then the other player is Jason Witten. So those are the 2 guys who are above Travis Kelce in terms of receiving yards all time by a tight end. Sorry, I was just reading something that got me a little distracted here. Anyway, so Travis Kelce needs 10 yards to surpass the 13,000 yard mark. Now, he needs 57 yards to move ahead of Jason Witten, which is possible against a really bad Raiders team. Keep in mind, the Raiders don't have Max Crosby for this game, so there is a possibility that Travis Kelce can get those 57 yards. I was going to say, if Max Crosby was playing in this game against 3rd-string offensive tackles, that'd be bad news for Chris Oladokun, But given that Crosby is no longer playing in this game, there's a strong chance that not only do I think the Chiefs will win this game, but I also think Travis Kelce can get those 57 yards. And I would like to think, listen, again, you're not playing for much. So I'd like to think the Chiefs can try to make that a possibility to give Kelce those 57 yards if this is going to be his last game. I don't think it will be, but we can't dismiss the possibility of this possibly being his final game with the Chiefs. And by the way, for the record, Jason Witten has 13,046 receiving yards. So Travis Kelce needs 57 to surpass him and be second all time in receiving yards by tight end. If Kelce gets those 57 yards, Tony Gonzalez and Travis Kelce will be 1 and 2 all time among tight ends. So that'd be interesting to see. Tony's asking, do you think Veach moves down in the draft? If he gets an offer that's too good to refuse, maybe. But I think with Kansas City, because a lot of people have said, even Belichick said this on Pat McAfee's show once, part of the reason with Kansas City struggles and not having a good offensive line is they're picking late a lot in the draft every year. Well, this is your year to have a chance to pick in the top 10. So I don't think Veach will trade down. Because I really do think there's a possibility they might target Jeremiah Love. And if not Jeremiah Love, there might be an offensive tackle, or either a right tackle or a left guard, unless they're comfortable with who they have, either Kingsley Suamataia at left guard or Jalen Moore, Esapole at right tackle, because I do think Jawaan Taylor has played his final game with the Chiefs. And the Chiefs don't have a lot of picks. Yeah, I get that, Javi. I see you mentioning that. I think trading Trent McDuffie, unless Veach really works his magic with the salary cap, and it's not going to be easy, you're going to have to do a lot of movement with the salary cap to figure that out. Because I do think trading Trent McDuffie will allow you to get more draft capital. Yes, you could restructure Chris Jones and Patrick Mahomes' contracts, but you're only kicking the can down the road to do it again. So you might as well trade him now. And I know I don't make a big deal about this, but I know a lot of people do. Veach has not given a second contract to quarterbacks that have been drafted in Kansas City. He traded Marcus Peters. He traded L'Jarius Sneed. Might trade Trent McDuffie. And again, I hate to see it because I know a lot of people have become big fans of Trent McDuffie. I will say I do think that right now, I think McDuffie would have been a better player to extend than Karlaftis, because Karlaftis has not looked good since he's last signed that contract, but you're stuck with him for a few years. And ultimately, I just think the Chiefs are going to have to figure out what they're going to do. Cutting Mike Dana and Jawaan Taylor will help tremendously. Trading Trent McDuffie will help as well. After that, restructuring Mahomes' deal will probably come into play. There's a lot they'll figure out. So we'll see what the Chiefs do in the coming days with all of that. I see Stephanie's asking what happened with the tryouts. I did see that the Chiefs did sign 2 guys. One of them, if I can find that, let me see. I know Matt Derrick put it out there. So the Chiefs had 13 players try out for them yesterday. One of those players is a former Kansas Jayhawk who transferred to Auburn, Marcus Harris, defensive tackle, and they also signed linebacker Cam Arnold. That puts the Chiefs at 12 spots on their 16-player practice squad. So they're not really filling up the practice squad at the moment, but I don't think they really need to. There's only one game left for the Chiefs this season, unfortunately. Johnson's kind of like getting rid of Tooney. Yeah, that's a tough one. I think looking back, you should have figured out what to do with Tooney. And listen, I'll say this about the Karlaftis contract, because even though Karlaftis signed a big deal, that contract does not really kick in until 2027. And if I have that right, let me just make sure of that, because next year he's playing under the 5th-year option, because this is the final year of his rookie deal. Next year is the 5th-year option, as is Trent McDuffie with the 5th-year option. So he's under contract this year, 2025. This is the first year playing under that new deal, but again, that contract does not kick in this year. Next year is the 5th-year option. Then 2027 is the official start of that 4-year deal, which is worth $88 million. He's going to make $15 million, just north of $15 million in 2027. And then in 2028, 2029, and 2030, he will be making at least $22 million each of those 3 years. So hopefully this guy is kicking ass by then, because Kansas City really needs him to step up. This was not a good season for George Karlaftis. He got a lot of pressures, but pressures don't always translate to good things. So hopefully that changes soon. I think if Omar Norman Lott stays healthy, which is concerning because he had 2 significant injuries this season, I think that's going to help the defensive line a lot. I think Ashton Gillotte showed some progress as the season went on. You've got, and Chris Jones is obviously locked long-term for a few years, so you've got a really good foundation with the defensive line. You just got to hope that these guys stay healthy, and I think the rest will kind of fall into play. And Spags, if he continues to stay in Kansas City, he'll continue to do his thing with the blitz packages and whatnot, get kind of creative with the defense. Even though this season defensively was not the best for the Chiefs, they were still pretty good. I mean, they continue to be top 10 in total defense and points allowed per game. So you just got to hope that this defensive line steps up, because if it does, the sack production can go back to what it was a couple of years ago when they were second in the league in sacks. Remember that in 2023? So we'd certainly like to see more of that come back. Doesn't it make more sense to sign a back and draft a premium spot? Are you saying sign a running back and also draft a running back? Because I don't know what you mean specifically by premium spot. Look, free agency, and Kimberly, I agree with you. I remember years ago, people thought Derrick Henry was done, and I said, no way. I mean, this guy was the reason the Tennessee Titans had success. And I'll give Tennessee credit because Henry got injured, and they found a way to get the number 1 seed. But, I think they made a mistake letting Mike Vrabel go, letting Derrick Henry go. If Derrick Henry becomes available, I could seriously see him reuniting with Vrabel in New England over Kansas City. I'd love him in Kansas City. If I had my choice between Derrick Henry, Breece Hall, and Jeremiah Love, dude, give me Derrick Henry. I don't know what he would demand salary-wise, but boy, he would be worth bringing in. I agree. That would be an impossible do. Mahomes and Henry, that would be a lot of fun to watch. Draft a tackle or an edge? Look, it just really depends. I know Breece Hall is going to be available, but he's probably going to want a really big contract, which is why the Chiefs did not give up a 3rd-round draft pick for Breece Hall, because they didn't want to give up a 3rd-round draft pick for a rental. Plus, I don't even know if Andy Reid would have used him. They're not even using Dameon Pierce. He might play this week. We'll see. But for whatever reason, in recent years, it takes forever for a newcomer to learn the offense, which makes no sense. If they draft a running back, will they get some play time? See, that's what I'm saying. I've been thinking about this for a while. Let's say they get Jeremiah Love with the 9th pick. Let's assume they stay at number 9. If you're not going to use a running back often in this system, is he really worth drafting at number 9? Again, I'm not dismissing anything about Jeremiah Love and what he could do in the NFL. I just wonder, would the Chiefs utilize him enough to make it worth grabbing with the 9th pick? That's my only thing. I mean, look, they utilize Clyde Edwards-Helaire as much as they could. And look, I don't think Clyde Edwards-Helaire gets enough credit for what he did his first 2 years with the Chiefs. His first year, at one point, he was 2nd in rushing yards. Only Derrick Henry had more. That was in 2020. And in 2021, I know wasn't his best year, but before his injury, he was in the top 10 in rushing yards. Look, the Chiefs had a really tough situation where they cut Kareem Hunt, who was one of the best running backs at the time in his first stint with the Chiefs. And the Chiefs went from Damian Williams to Darrell Williams to LaShawn McCoy to Clyde Edwards-Helaire to Man, Isaiah Pacheco. Like, they went through a carousel of running backs, and Isaiah Pacheco looked like he was going to be the running back of the future here in Kansas City for a long time. Unfortunately, this might be his final game with the Chiefs. Isaiah Pacheco is a very talented football player. I don't think he's coming back. And look, I've said it earlier, and I know we haven't brought this up on tonight's podcast, but I do think scheming matters. And if the Chiefs can get a better offensive coordinator to replace Matt Nagy, it would be very significant. I think it would make a big difference for your offense. So that's another thing that looking back at the Chiefs and what went wrong this year, you've got to have better scheming. And Mitch, I almost said it again. I said Mitch Holthus. Mitch Schwartz said that on an ESPN podcast recently. Couple of news and notes before we take a break and break down the game between the Chiefs and the Raiders. Again, appreciate you guys joining and watching live. A reminder, there will not be a Red Friday Q&A live chat because I am traveling before that. And there will not be a post-game podcast on Sunday because I'll be at the game. When I get back to the hotel, I'm going to try to do a live stream, and I will only do it on Facebook. So for those watching on YouTube, X, Instagram, make sure you're following me on Facebook because I won't have the capability to live stream everywhere. It's only going to be on one platform. So make sure you guys do tune in to my Facebook page about 30 minutes after the game. I don't know. Just depends on the post-game traffic because I am going to chime in with my thoughts afterwards on the game. It'll be a quick one. It's not going to be a podcast, but we will return Monday. We will do a post-game podcast, or not a post-game, a post-season podcast, 8 p.m. Central Time. That'll be 6 days from now, so just keep that in mind as we. And by the way, I'll let you guys call in. So we'll have the link for you guys to call in because we won't do it this Sunday. I'll give you guys that opportunity on Monday night. So hopefully we'll have people call in. Usually people don't. I've tried to allow people to call in for non-game day podcasts. We don't get a lot of those, so I'll give it one more opportunity, see if people want to call in on that Monday after the Raiders game, because I'll be back home by then. Do you ever do meetups with fans before games? People have asked me this. So I know I was getting just a pulse from you guys. First of all, to answer your question, no. But I've had people approach me at Royals games, Chiefs games, even Comic-Cons. So if you see me out and about, say hi, say what's up. Don't be weird. If you look at me funny from a distance for a long time, I'm going to think it's really weird. So if you think you see me, I mean, there aren't a lot of people who look like me. Come on, just come up and say hi, say what's up. But no, I don't do meetups or anything like that. However, I did ask if you guys would be interested in doing a live show with a live audience if we were to have special guests for that podcast. Lots of you guys said yes. So that is something that we will consider in the coming days. I will tell you guys, I have been in connection with a group that is interested in doing a live podcast. Can't give out the details right now. We are in the heavy preliminary stages of even figuring things out. So I hope it happens. There are a lot of moving parts to make that happen. But if we can get something done, I will let you guys know right away. It would be awesome to do a live podcast. It's something I've also had people from that are not in the Kansas City area actually reach out, like Wichita, Lawrence, Columbia, St. Joe. I mean, that'd be pretty cool to branch out and do live shows there as well, because I know a lot of you guys are in those areas as well, or near somewhere nearby. I don't think we're in that position right now, but if we continue to grow, we can certainly make that happen. So, yeah, Maggie or whoever was asking that, if you ever see me out and about, just say hi, say what's up. I've had people come up to me before, during games. Just don't be weird about it. That's all. Okay. I did want to get into this. So we've had a couple of big stories today across the NFL. As a matter of fact, it is a busy day for NFL players with the last name Diggs. The first one, breaking news from New England, Stephon Diggs facing felony strangulation or suffocation charge along with a misdemeanor of assault and battery. The Patriots have obviously issued a statement saying that they support Stephon Diggs, and Stephon Diggs, quote unquote, categorically denies. I love that word, categorically denies these accusations. Look, obviously, you've got to let the legal process play out. Innocent until proven guilty, right? So let it all play out. I know there are people posting screenshots and police reports. Let it all play out. Let the evidence play out before making any kind of determination. The other big story, this one's involving Trevon Diggs of the Dallas Cowboys, well, now formerly of the Dallas Cowboys, and Jordan Schultz of Fox Sports put out a lengthy explanation as to why Diggs was let go all of a sudden by the Cowboys. So, as you guys remember, last week on Christmas, there were 3 games. The first one was the Cowboys visiting the Commanders in DC, obviously. And Diggs had family in the DC area. He was wanting to stay in the DC area to be with his family. I believe I saw through Brittany Mahomes' Instagram, unless she was the one who stayed and Patrick went back for the Thanksgiving game. If I'm not mistaken, I believe Patrick just stayed in Dallas. I mean, he's from there, which makes sense. Would have surprised me if guys like Rashee Rice, Hollywood Brown, who also have ties in the state of Texas, Brashard Smith, just hung out after that Thanksgiving game. That is very common, according to Jordan Schultz, for players to do that if they have, like a mini bye coming off a Thursday night game. Apparently, according to Jordan Schultz, Diggs on multiple occasions requested for this to be allowed, and Brian Schottenheimer, the head coach of the Cowboys, multiple times denied this. Here's my biggest reaction, because, and I can't remember who it was, somebody from the Chiefs, I think it was Felix Anudike-Uzomah. This was obviously before his injury. I remember him doing a podcast with Kay Adams, and the topic of the Chiefs playing on Christmas and Thanksgiving came up, and he kind of just did the moan like, oh. So you could tell he did not want that. Look, here's my thing, and this is something I was taught a long time ago. As someone that used to work in sports media, and to be clear, I'm not in sports media. I don't consider podcasting and blogging to be sports media, or that podcasters and bloggers are journalists, unless they are doing journalistic type of things. I know there are some podcasters who claim to be a part of the media when they are not even credentialed, which I think is funny. A lot of you guys say I'm a journalist, which I'm not. Anyway, I digress. Not the point. But back when I was in the media, I learned that if you want to be in sports broadcasting, you have to be okay with working on holidays. Now, if you listen to sports talk radio, you'll notice, the Rich Eisens of the world, the Colin Cowherds, the big boys in talk radio, really every full-time host, they take off on the week of holidays. And there are fill-in hosts, substitute hosts for that holiday week. You're hearing it right now on a lot of national radio shows. You're hearing a lot of voices that you don't traditionally hear because the full-time people, they're taking off for the holidays. So if you're going to work in sports, if you're going to work in baseball, look, you're not going to have a summer vacation. You're not going to have a relaxing 4th of July. You're going to be working on the 4th of July. You're going to be working on Memorial Day. You're going to be working on Labor Day. People like to enjoy their summer and eat hot dogs and drink beer and enjoy the sun, get in the pool, all that stuff. But if you're working in baseball, you are not going to have that. You're just not. If you are working in football, there's a very good chance you might be scheduled to work on Thanksgiving and on Christmas. So you may not be able to attend Christmas parties because you have a football game you have to cover. You might not be able to attend certain events because you are in the realm of sports media. If you ever sign up, I used to work for the Royals, and there were some days where I worked on holidays. Didn't want to, but hey, they paid pretty well working in media production. So I couldn't ever say no to that. But all of these stadium ushers, all of the stadium security, and I'll even include the players and coaches, they're working in baseball. So when you work in baseball, you know you're going to work consecutive days, sometimes even doubleheaders, and you'll know that there's a chance you might work on holidays. And listen, with the Kansas City Chiefs being maybe not this year, but they're still a staple football team, you will probably be working a lot of holidays. I know the Chiefs are trying to become a staple on Christmas. I think they're trying to also push for Thanksgiving as well. We'll see. I mean, given the ratings that just came out for Chiefs Cowboys on Thanksgiving, dude, the Chiefs are absolutely going to be put back on things, especially if Travis Kelce comes back. Because we all know that if Travis Kelce retires, you do lose the Swiftie viewing audience. And they've been a big part of Kansas City's viewership going up in games. Just watch the playoffs. Do you think the playoffs are going to have the same big numbers without Kelce and the Swifties? Of course not. You'd be fooling yourself if you thought that. But anyway, here's my thing. I'm not here to say, Trevon Diggs, this whole thing happened because he was not allowed to stay in DC for Christmas. No. However, if this becomes a trend, if this happens more often with other teams and players where they're not allowed to stay in a specific area, if they're a road team and they might have family there for Christmas or Thanksgiving, then there might be a conversation to be had. You know what's really funny about the NFL? I know the NFL, whenever Christmas Day, not Christmas Eve, whenever Christmas Day falls on a Sunday, they will actually reschedule all of the Sunday slate of games to Saturday, Christmas Eve. This happened many times. I believe 2016, all of the Christmas Day games were on Sunday, so they moved everything to Saturday. Only one team or one or two games took place on Christmas Day. I know in 2011, same thing. All the Sunday slate of games were rescheduled to Saturday when the schedule was announced. It's happened several other times. So the NFL, they want to schedule 2 or 3 games on Christmas Day, but they'll never do like a full Sunday slate. And I don't know exactly why. Which again, by the way, if you're Al Michaels, he had to work on Christmas this year. Now, Al Michaels is being paid a shit ton of money. So if he is forced to have to move Christmas around a day or two early or later, boo-hoo. Poor Al Michaels. Like, I'm not going to feel bad. I would feel bad more so for the people who work in concessions. Now, again, if you choose to work at Arrowhead Stadium as a vendor, stadium security, whatever, you know there is a possibility of you working on Christmas Day or Thanksgiving or Halloween. And if that's not something you can commit to, then don't work in football. It's kind of like the aviation industry. Like, you know, there's a good possibility you will be scheduled to work on holidays because airports are always open, even on holidays. I remember being in Vegas the week of Thanksgiving when the Chiefs visited the Raiders a couple of years ago, and it was my first time ever in Vegas on Thanksgiving. Surprisingly, it was busy, and the restaurants were open, bars, casinos, all that stuff. You had dealers, cocktail waitresses. I mean, you had everyone, servers, bartender, everyone was working. So it's just something like if certain industries require you to work on holidays, then don't commit to working on that. Now, again, I'm not going to feel terrible for NFL players because they make a lot of money. So if they need to reschedule their Christmas tradition with their family, listen, I'm sorry, you're an NFL player. You make a lot of money to where you can work it out with your families. Robert says, I'll work anywhere, any day, anytime, if the money is right. Listen, man, I'm the same way. When I was coming out of college, I had nearly $30,000 in student loans I had to pay off. Let me tell you guys a story. I mentioned to you guys, I used to work for the Kansas City Royals for their media production, and I'll open up the curtain for you guys. So I was the backup DJ, the backup LED boards operator, and also the backup video board operator. So I was the backup for 3 different jobs. But the stadium DJ, the main guy, excuse me, long story short, dude is a single father of 3 kids, and then he had a 4th that was coming on the way. So he was really, really busy. So I filled in a lot because he had a lot of other personal commitments. So anytime, he needed me to fill in, I would always be willing to say yes. Same with whoever else that needed me to fill in. So I made $30 an hour as the stadium DJ. And I'll tell you something right now. Anytime, like when the opposing team, they hit a home run to tie the game in the top of the 9th, you could hear groaning across the control room. Not me, man. I was like, sweet, this game's going into extra innings. That's more hours, more money for me. Now, the full-time people, there were some people in the control room who are full-time, some who are part-time. The full-time people didn't like it because they get paid the same no matter what. But if you were a part-time guy like me, hey, you got extra hours. You're working in baseball. I'm blasting music through the loudspeakers at a baseball stadium. Like, that's cool. I was never going to be the guy that would bitch and moan about it. I remember one game, the Royals played 13 innings. I wasn't complaining. There was another occasion where in Kauffman Stadium, there was a game that was tied going into the 6th inning. And because it was tied going into the 6th, we had a rain delay and they could not postpone the game because it was tied. So the game had to continue. So we got back around midnight, but oddly enough, half the lights went out because they're on a timer. Somebody forgot to reset them because they didn't think we'd be at the stadium that late. So we had to wait a whole 20 minutes for the lights to come back on. And again, people were complaining. And by the way, that game went into extra innings. So I was there until 3 a.m. for one game. And, I'll never complain about working. Bob says firefighters and police officers work on holiday. Yeah, and Bob's a former fireman, so appreciate what you do, Bob, or what you have done. And to all of your other colleagues who may still be working. Because that's, again, I remember going to someone's house for Christmas, and on my way there, I just saw a bunch of police officers blocking traffic. They had their lights on, and it seemed like they were closing off exits because they were trying to look for someone on Christmas Day. Like and I don't know what ended up happening with that situation, but a police officer's life could have ended because he was trying to protect someone else, trying to get a criminal in handcuffs. So again, certain industries in life require you to work on holidays. Whether you're a nurse, a first responder like Bob, you're not going to be getting paid much on holidays. But you'll still, if you're willing to work in that industry, you do accept that you might have to work on those holidays. Again, same thing goes for an NFL player, which, by the way, they make way more than a first responder. You accept the fact that you might be working on a holiday, and maybe your family holiday plans might not go the way you want it. You make a lot of money. Figure it out. You're more than able to do so. I don't think, I know a lot of people are saying it's a bad look for the Cowboys. I don't disagree. But at the same time, it's like, okay, you're a professional football player with a lot of money. You and your family can definitely figure that out. Absolutely can figure it out. As you've already heard, DraftKings Sportsbook is now live in the Show Me State, and we are heading into the final week of the regular season, but it is never too late to get in on the action. That means you can make your game day watching experience more exciting with same-game parlays, money lines, my personal favorite, touchdown props, and much more. You can do it all from your phone. It is safe, secure, and very easy to use. Missouri fans know about game day with the tailgates, the noise, and the passion. And now with DraftKings Sportsbook, you can bring that same energy to every game, every score, and every victory. New Missouri customers can bet $5 and earn $300 in bonus bets instantly. No waiting, no nonsense, just pure action from America's top-rated sportsbook app. And I'm going to give you guys my picks for the 3 standalone games for Week 18, starting with an NFC NFC South showdown between the Panthers and the Bucks. I think the Bucks will win. Then you've got a big NFC West showdown between the Seahawks and the 49ers. This is for the division title and the number one seed in the conference. I'm going to go with the Seahawks. They've been on top recently, and I think they're going to stay on top. And for the regular season finale, this is going to be a good one. The Ravens visiting the Steelers. Winner wins the AFC North, and the loser misses the playoffs. This one's going to be close. It's going to be exciting. It's going to be fun. I love Derrick Henry, though. I think he does a lot of great things. I know there's some question marks about Lamar Jackson's availability, but I've got to go with the Ravens in this one. I think they will come back and win the AFC North title and will advance to the playoffs. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app and use my promo code ChiefZone. New Missouri customers can bet $5 and earn $300 in bonus bets instantly. That is with my promo code ChiefZone. The crown is yours in partnership with DraftKings Sportsbook.
Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. 21 and over. Physically present in Missouri. Eligibility restrictions apply. Bonus bets expire 7 days after issuance. Excludes customers who redeem pre-launch sign-up offer. Terms at sportsbook.draftkings.com/promos.
All right, welcome back into the Chief Zone podcast. Farzin Vasugian here with you. It is the final breakdown of the season. I'll be honest, I was just going through the list of available Raiders players. And I said this at the beginning of the podcast. If you had to, if I was in a, life or death situation and I had to name you 5 Raiders players that are available for this Sunday's game, I mean, I can tell you now because I did a little bit of research on this game, not too much, because let's be honest, who the hell cares about this game? But dude, in terms of players available, Brock Bowers not available, Max Crosby not available, Geno Smith not available. Dude, honestly, the only names I could have told you were Ashton Jeanty, and I think Tyler Lockett's going to be available for this one. Dude, those are the only names I could have come up with. I'm just looking across the Raiders. This team's bad. I mean, I know the Chiefs have had a really bad season, but even with Geno Smith, Brock Bowers, and Max Crosby, like, this team is horrendously bad. I mean, they have Trey Tucker, who I believe is going to play. I don't know if Jack Beck's going to play. Raheem Mostert, maybe. I mean, they did away with a couple of wide receivers earlier in the season. Jacoby Myers, traded him away. I mean, there is nobody on this Raiders team that is worth a damn that's available for Sunday's game except for Ashton Jeanty. I see DJ Glaze's name on there. I remember talking about DJ Glaze in the past because he's got a cool name, DJ Glaze. Like, that's a cool name. But especially with the way people use the term glaze now, I seriously could not tell you, not even their specialists. I know AJ Coley's one of the better punters in the NFL, but I would not have remembered that he was punting for the Raiders. So this is a Raiders team that is just bad, like really bad. But nonetheless, we will still break it down like we do each and every single game. This will be on CBS. We don't know the maps for this one yet. It'll come out sometime tomorrow, but it is going to be incredibly tiny because I told you guys the announcers. It is going to be Chris Lewis and Kyle Long. Yes, the Kyle Long that spent 1 year with the Chiefs and never played a snap, and Chris Lewis, who has done some work with NBC Sports and CBS Sports. I'll be honest, I did not know anything about Chris Lewis until I heard that he was announcing this football game. Did not know anything about Chris Lewis until this week. That's how you know the Chiefs have a lot. For those of you who have complained about Jim Nantz and Tony Romo, you got your wish. You are getting literally the practice squad announcers for this game. You complained about Jim Nantz and Tony Romo. Well, guess what? You got the complete opposite. You happy? Careful what you wish for sometimes, man. Careful what you wish for. Obviously, we'll be on CBS. And the Chiefs, last I saw, they opened as 5.5-point betting favorites. That did go up to 6, and it went back down to 5.5. Okay, all right. I don't know what changed, but maybe the amount of people betting on that. Why would you bet on this game? Like, seriously, there is no certainty with this game. I mean, I think the Chiefs will win, but this one it's still one that I would stay far, far away from. By the way, the over-under for this one is 36.5. Excuse me. Yeah, give me the under. Give me the under on that one. I'll absolutely take the under. Listen, I don't hate Romo. I read somewhere that Crosby wants to play for the Chiefs. Is there truth to that? No. He would never openly say that while under contract with the Raiders. No one ever openly under contract with another team will say, "Hey, I want to play there." They would never do that. So, yeah, I mean, there are a lot of people spreading fake news out there. So you might have seen that from one of those fake news pages. I never complained. Mitch Holtis and Dane and Hughes call games for me every week. Hey, fair enough, Tink. Fair enough. Although I guess now with technology changing, I guess it's easier to sync up, and maybe you might be a minute behind. But if you have like the Sirius XM app like I do, and you have the full access, then I guess you can just pause your TV for a minute and then let the game audio catch up. So I suppose that's one way of being able to sync it up if you're okay with being a little bit behind. But nonetheless, this is going to be on CBS. I mentioned the betting lines and the over-under. Yeah, I think that's about it. No other concerns. No injury report because they're indoors, and also for injury report, we're doing this a day earlier than we usually do. I think from the Chiefs side of things, Trey Smith might not play in this game. Andy Reid did mention that he's still battling through an ankle injury. I know he's also got a back injury he's been fighting through this season. So I don't see the value in even using Trey Smith. I know when he spoke to the media, he said, "It's my job. It's my job to be out there." Wasn't really happy answering questions, which I get. But I don't see the need to put Trey Smith out there. Keep him healthy. Don't do anything stupid. Come back in the offseason and next season healthy, stronger, ready to go, hopefully better than this season. All right, let's talk about the Raiders. Let's go with their offense. They rank last in points per game, averaging 14 points per game. They also rank last in total offense, averaging just under 250 yards a game. They are dead last in rushing yards per game. Are you noticing a trend? Guess where they rank in passing yards? Surprisingly, not last. They are 26th in that category. They are the fifth worst third down offense and the fourth worst fourth down offense. And they're also 25th in red zone scoring. So they're pretty terrible across the board. Geno Smith not expected to play in this game. It's going to be Kenny Pickett, who's kind of turned into a journeyman in the NFL. And then their other backup, Aiden O'Connell. He does have a win against the Chiefs, but that was way back. There's a reason why he's a third-string quarterback now in the NFL. Ashton Jeanty having a good season. I mentioned 888 rushing yards on the season. Yeah, it's less than 4 yards a carry, but if he had a better offensive line, he certainly would have more. We'll see what the Raiders try to do in the offseason and trying to improve on that. But Ashton Jeanty, their leading rusher this season. And then as far as their pass catchers go, Jacoby Myers was one of their key pass catchers, but they traded him earlier in the season. Brock Bowers, he leads the team with 680 yards and 7 touchdowns, but is on IR. Trey Tucker, he's got 666 yards, so he doesn't need a whole lot to surpass Bowers as the leading receiver, 5 touchdowns on the season for him. Ashton Jeanty also does have 5 receiving touchdowns on the year as well. So they've been able to use him in that area as well. Michael Mayer, the backup tight end, who's probably going to get some more looks in this game. He's got 281 yards. Jack Beck, north of 200 yards. Tyler Lockett also, who joined the team midseason, familiar with Pete Carroll's scheme. And by the way, I forgot to mention the coaching staff. Pete Carroll, of course, your head coach. They fired Chip Kelly, their offensive coordinator. They also fired their special teams coordinator. So, yeah, it has not been a good season for them. And when you look at their offensive line, they got Stone Forsythe, Dylan Parham, Alex Kappa. I believe he played for the Bengals, Caleb Rogers, DJ Glaze. That is the offensive line for the Raiders. And when you look at some of the games the Raiders played, they were shut up by the Chiefs earlier this season, 31-0. And I believe that was the score before the end of the third quarter. Although that was before the end of the third quarter. The Chiefs came close to scoring again, but they just went for it on 4th and goal with their backups because they didn't really care. And then they lost again to the Eagles a couple of weeks ago with the exact same score, 31-0. The Raiders have been shut out twice this season with the exact same score to the defending Super Bowl champs and the defending AFC champs. If you look at some of the other scores where they've lost this season, they lost to the Colts 40-6. They lost to the Chargers 20-9. They lost to the Broncos 10-7. Remember that abysmal Thursday night game? And Broncos fans were worried because their next game was against Kansas City. Turned out they didn't have much to really worry about. Lost to Dallas 33-16, lost to Cleveland 24-10, lost to the Chargers 31-14. This is not a team that puts up a lot of points. They just lost to the Giants, who also had a lot of backups, 34-10. And that includes a special teams kickoff return for a touchdown by the Giants in that one. So this Raiders team, doesn't matter if they have their starters or their backups, they just have not been able to muster yardage and points, hence why they're dead last in both of those categories. So I think that's a huge reason why this team is just bad and why the Chiefs will win. You think Pete Carroll is going to be gone? Look, would this be their third year in a row firing a coach? Who was before Antonio Pierce? Was it John Gruden? So I remember that. So they fired John Gruden, and then the interim head coach somebody else was after John Gruden. They had Rich Bisaccia, and he led them to the playoffs. And they should have kept him, but I thought that was a silly move. They went with, Josh McDaniels. How could you forget Josh McDaniels, an AFC West legend with the Broncos and the Raiders? Josh McDaniels, AFC West legend. Then they fired McDaniels, and then Antonio Pierce became the interim head coach. But they fired him in less than 365 days after hiring him as the full-time head coach. So this would be, listen, you're not going to win ever if you keep firing your head coach every year. They fired McDaniels before the end of the 2023 season. They fired Pierce after the 2024 season. And then they would fire Pete Carroll after this season. No, you've got to give him at least 2. Listen, the Raiders are not going to get fixed overnight. Some teams can get fixed in one off season, depending on the talent they have. Look at the Patriots. They had the talent, and they added some more. Coaching helps, and coaching matters, but you can't do it with scrubs, which is what the Raiders have had in 19 of their 22 positions. And the guys who I don't consider scrubs are Max Crosby, Brock Bowers, and Ashton Genty. That's it. You're not winning games with just those 3 guys, none of which are quarterbacks. Edge rusher is huge. A running back is huge. A tight end is big. But if you don't have the quarterback, you don't have the offensive line, how the hell are you expected to win no matter who the head coach is? Go put Andy Reid, go put Bill Belichick, go put Don Shula, Chuck Noll, whoever you think is the greatest coach ever, go put them with this Raiders team. They ain't winning shit. You might help them improve by 1 or 2 games. That's it. That's all you're going to get. So this Raiders team has a lot to figure out. For the sake of, good football, I hope they don't fire Pete Carroll. I think Pete Carroll's a great coach. I get it. He's up there in age, and this was a disaster season all across the board. I just don't know if firing him after one season is the move. Because you're going to do the same thing over and over again. You just will. And again, with Pete Carroll's age, I don't know realistically what is the expectation for the Raiders. I don't know. I don't have that answer. And that's up to Mark Davis and the rest of the Davis family to figure that out. So, yeah, it has certainly been a very disappointing season for the Raiders. Not that I think anyone expected anything out of them anyway, but when you have a head coach like Pete Carroll, you'd like to think there's going to be something that can get accomplished, and that's not what they've been doing this year. The defensive side, they are 25th in points allowed per game, just over 26 points a game, averaging 327 or allowing 327 yards a game. That is 16th. In terms of third down defense, they are the worst. They're the 21st ranked fourth down defense, 22nd in red zone stops. And then as far as rushing yards allowed per game, they're 18th in that category. Passing yards allowed per game, 15th. Not a terrible defense, but they're just not able to overcome a lot of obstacles because they just really struggle in so many areas. Not a team that gets a lot of sacks, not a team that gets a lot of takeaways. Just overall, not a great defense. I think they can hold their own at times, but when the offense is not able to return the favor, hence why they're dead last in total yardage and points scored, that will always hurt your defense, especially time of possession. So that's why the Raiders are as bad as they are, and they are expected to get the number one seed, the number one pick in the NFL, a different type of number one seed, to be clear. Looking at the Raiders specifics on defense, they got Blue Kelly, their leader in interceptions, but he's not expected to play. Polamalu, he's got a pair of picks on the season. Crosby leads the team in sacks with 10, but he is not expected to play. Jonah Laulu, I think is how you say his name. He is next on the team in sacks with 4. Malcolm Kuntz also has 4 sacks. So there's a pretty big gap for first and the two guys tied for second in sacks on this team. And again, Crosby's just a monster. This guy has 28 tackles for a loss. He'd be great on any defense. I do think Crosby's played his last game with the Raiders. Look, I'm sure he's making a lot of money. I know he just signed a big deal and all, but at some point, there's only so much patience you can really have with an organization. And I know Max Crosby campaigned so hard for Antonio Pierce. Why? I mean, just looking at the performance last year, why? I get it. I think the reason Pierce got the job is because of that Christmas Day win over the Chiefs. Dude, if you're going to give a guy a head coaching job because of one game he had as an interim coach, and I know he coached more games, but he had one fluke win. You know why that's a fluke win? Because Antonio Pierce in the offseason, after he got hired as a full-time coach, went on Crosby's podcast and said, hey, guess what? We have the recipe to beat Patrick Mahomes. And then what happened? You lost both games to Mahomes. So that's never a good look. Like, if you're going to say those kinds of things, you better get a sweep. And instead they got swept. Hopefully the Chiefs can get the sweep. As again, not a lot to really look forward to this defense. Their leading tackler is Devin White. He's got 168 tackles on the season. Jeremy Chin on the team. Their safety with 114 tackles. He is, however, on IR. We'll see if White will play in this game. I believe he is expected to play. But again, you just never know in a game like this where you have two bad teams with losing records and you don't know if it's even worth it to use some of their starters. So, and as far as their special teams unit goes, they fired their special teams coordinator, like I mentioned earlier on. Daniel Carlson, their kicker, 18 of 23, not very good this season. AJ Cole, their punter. And then as far as their return specialists go, Dylan Labe, the running back who does a lot of kick return stuff. Raheem Mostert, we'll see if he's available for this game. I know he's fighting through an injury. Zamir White, I don't know if Zamir White is active. He is. It shows active on ESPN, so we'll see if he plays. He was the last running back to rush for 100 yards for the longest time up until some point middle of this year when James Cook did it. So Zamir White's still with that Raiders team. And then as far as punt returns go, they only have 24 total punt returns. 99 yards from Alex Bachman and 49 yards from Trey Tucker. So that's not an area where they really excel in either. All right, so that is the Raiders in a nutshell, which isn't much given that they're going to have a lot of backups playing in this one. my score prediction, I'm going to go 20-10. I know the Chiefs have Chris Oladokun, and I know they have backups across the entire team, including third-string offensive tackles, lots of backup wide receivers playing. I hope Jalen Royals finally gets a pass thrown his way. I mean, I don't know. We'll see if that finally happens. And then on the defensive side, you still have a lot of your starters on defense. We'll see if they use some of the backups, guys like Jeff Bossa. Maybe they let Ashton Gelati play a lot more for Kansas City on the defensive side. That certainly would be nice to see how he can end the season against what might be a starting offensive line for the Raiders. As far as other guys, I know they just added Tyreek Smith at some point this year. They have Zach Pickens, who they added not too long ago. Cole Christensen, is he a guy worth looking at the linebacker position? Cooper McDonald, who is an undrafted free agent that made the 53-man roster. He stayed on the team. He's done a lot of special teams work. Jaden Hicks, is he a guy that you can stick with long-term? He's done a lot of good things for you this year, so give him one more game. Let's see what he can do. Josh Williams has just really disappeared as a cornerback on this team. I know they have Melvin Smith Jr., someone who they got undrafted this year. Same with Kevin Knowles. Will those guys get a lot of playing time? Christian Fulton, Noel Williams, they did really well in the Denver game. Nothing too impressive if you do it again against the Raiders, because, again, keep in mind, they're going to have a lot of backups as well, including a backup quarterback in Kenny Pickett. So we'll see what ends up happening. You're just trying to see who you can get. But I will say, I want Travis Kelce to get the 57 yards, because if he gets 57 yards, he'll get the 13,000-yard receiving mark. He just needs 10 to get that. That's easy. If he gets 57, he will surpass Jason Witten for the second most receiving yards by a tight end in NFL history. And again, I just don't think the Raiders are that good of a team. They just lost in another practice squad game to the Giants last week, 34-10. So I'm going to go 20-10 in this one. Kansas City wins in their season finale. Hey, thank you all so much. This has been a fun season. Win or lose, I still enjoy doing this. The podcasting, the live streams, all the content with you guys. Always fun. And we grow more and more every year. The numbers, once again, bigger than they were the previous year. I feel like I say that every year. That's just the way it goes. And I really appreciate you guys making that happen, because that does not happen without you guys. And again, I know a lot of you guys have been asking about if there's an update on doing a live podcast with a live audience this offseason. We're working on that. We're talking to somebody about that right now. I'd love to make it happen. There are a lot of logistics that we need to figure out to make it happen. I've never done this before, so this would be brand new to me. So we'll see how all of that goes. But I appreciate all the interest, all of you guys supporting me, supporting the page, supporting the podcast. That greatly helps out. And if you haven't already, subscribe to the podcast. Follow me on Facebook, Instagram, X, Threads, wherever it is you check out the podcast and you take in all the content. Let your friends know about the YouTube page, the Facebook, all the other social media. That greatly helped us. When you share things, that absolutely helps with the algorithm. So I really appreciate all of you guys who comment, liking the post, sharing. That helps push our content out there with the algorithm, and that's how we grow. So I really do appreciate you guys. Happy holidays, Merry Christmas to all of you, and a Happy New Year to all of you guys. Be safe if you're traveling. If you're going to be at the game, have fun. If you run into me, say hi, say what's up. Otherwise, I will talk to you all next Monday. That'll be the next time we do a podcast or a live stream. I'll chime in shortly Sunday, about an hour, 30 minutes after the game, depending when I get back to the hotel. Won't be anything too long. It'll be short, but I will talk to you guys then, and then we'll do a podcast on Monday. Once again, Farzi Vasugian here with you. I will talk to you all next week. Have a safe and happy New Year's. Take care.